pay attention to the man kneeling at the edge of an empty swimming pool on Callaway Bend. It's 9:14 on a humid Thursday morning in June. The water is gone now, pumped out an hour ago, and what's left is a shell of cracked blue plaster, a ring of black algae, and a smell that doesn't belong to a swimming pool. His name is Marcus Delgado. He is 34 years old, a pool service technician, and a father of two. He was hired to drain and clean a neglected pool at a vacant house listed for sale. A simple job. He's done 1,000 of them. Now, pay attention to what Marcus notices at the bottom of the deep end. A drain. And next to it, a second pipe. One that no pool is ever built with. Within the hour, what Marcus uncovers beneath this backyard will become the largest abduction case in the state's history. This was not a dirty pool. It was a door. The house at 218 Callaway Bend had sat empty for 4 months. A foreclosure, beige siding, a sagging gutter, a lawn going to seed. The kind of house a neighborhood forgets. A realtor named Patricia Shue had finally gotten it under contract. The inspection was clean. The only eyesore was the backyard pool, half full of green water, thick with leaves, untouched since the previous owners left. So Patricia did what realtors do. She called a pool service, Crystal Clear Pool Care. They scheduled Marcus for Thursday morning. Marcus arrived at 7:40. He set his pump, ran the hose to the storm drain, and started pulling out 4 months of standing water. It took 90 minutes. He wasn't in a hurry. He had no reason to be. By 9:10, the pool was nearly dry. Marcus climbed down the ladder into the deep end to scrub the main drain. Standard procedure before a refill. That's when he saw it. The main drain was where it should be, dead center of the deep end. But 18 inches to the left, set into the plaster, was a second fitting. A 4-inch cap, painted the same blue as the pool to hide it. It didn't match anything. Pools don't have a second drain there. They never do. Marcus pressed it with his thumb. The cap shifted. It wasn't sealed. It was placed. Underneath was a length of PVC pipe, but it didn't run toward the filter system like every other pipe in the yard. It ran the wrong way, away from the house, down. He shined his phone light into the opening. The pipe didn't end. It kept going, into the dark, far past where any plumbing should go. Marcus did what anyone would do. He called the number on the work order. Patricia, the realtor, didn't know anything about a second pipe. The inspection report didn't mention it. The original blueprints, she pulled them up on her phone right there, showed one drain. One. Marcus walked the perimeter of the empty pool. At the shallow end, where the concrete deck met the grass, he found a square of patio stone that sat slightly higher than the rest. He nudged it with his boot. It rocked. Underneath was a steel ring, a handle, set flush into a poured slab. He stood there for a long moment in the bottom of an empty swimming pool, staring at a handle that no pool should have. And then, faintly, from somewhere beneath the slab, he heard it. A knock. It was soft. 3 taps, evenly spaced. Then, nothing. Marcus froze. He told himself it was the pipe settling. Old houses do that. He waited. Then it came again. 3 taps. The same rhythm. It wasn't random. It wasn't the house. Someone was making that sound. Someone was down there, beneath the bottom of the pool. He called 911 at 9:21 a.m. He told the dispatcher he thought there was a person trapped underground at a vacant property. The dispatcher asked him to repeat it twice. The first patrol car arrived at 9:34. Officer Trent Caldwell looked at the handle, looked at the empty pool, and called for backup before he touched anything. By 9:50, there were 3 units and a fire crew on scene. It took 2 firefighters and a pry bar to lift the slab. It was heavier than it looked, reinforced, hinged on one side, designed to open. Beneath it was not dirt. Beneath it was a concrete shaft, maybe 3 feet square, with steel rungs bolted into one wall, descending into the dark. Cold air rose out of it, and with the cold air came the smell Marcus had noticed at the top of the pool, stronger now. unwashed, human. Officer Caldwell leaned over the opening with his flashlight and called down. For a moment, there was nothing. Then a voice answered. Thin, cracked, barely a voice at all. "Please," it said. "Please, I'm down here." The firefighters went down first. 12 feet down, the shaft opened into a room, a chamber, 8 feet by 10, poured concrete on all sides, lit by a single battery lantern running low. There was a cot, a bucket, 3 jugs of water, nearly empty, and against the far wall, wrapped in a blanket, was a woman. Her name was Eleanor Voss. She was 68 years old, a retired school librarian, and she had been reported missing 11 days earlier. Dehydrated, disoriented, and weak, but alive. The firefighters lifted her toward the shaft, and that was when one of them, sweeping his light across the chamber, saw the second door. It was set into the concrete wall, steel, bolted from the outside, a chamber within the chamber. He called up to the surface. He said there was another door. He said he could hear someone behind it. The smell, the lantern, the bolted door. None of it belonged to a foreclosed house with a dirty pool. This wasn't a hiding place built in a panic. It was poured concrete. It had taken weeks to build. It belonged to someone who had planned this for a long time. Behind the second door was a woman named Carla Benitez. She was 41. She had vanished 7 weeks earlier from a grocery store parking lot 2 towns over. Her car found still running, her purse on the passenger seat, her phone on the ground beside the door. At the time, investigators had nothing. No witnesses, no usable footage, no leads. The case had gone cold within a month. Her family had been told to prepare for the worst. Now she was alive, in a bolted concrete cell, beneath the empty swimming pool of a foreclosed house she had never seen, in a town she had never visited. The 2 women had nothing in common. Different ages, different cities, different lives. They had never met. The only thing connecting Eleanor Voss and Carla Benitez was the man who had put them here, and this house. The foreclosure, the dirty pool, the forgotten lawn. It had never really been forgotten. Someone had chosen it precisely because it had been. A vacant property no one watched. A backyard no one entered. A pool no one would drain. Until a realtor got it under contract and called a pool cleaner, and a 4-inch pipe in the wrong place gave everything away. The question detectives now faced was simple, and it was terrible. Who built this, and how many more had he taken? The case landed on the desk of Detective Olivia Reyes at 11:40 that morning. She had worked 19 years in the county. She had never seen anything like the shaft beneath the pool. Both women were rushed to Brenner County Memorial. Eleanor Voss was treated for severe dehydration and the early stages of organ stress. Doctors said another 2 days underground might have killed her. Carla Benitez, after 7 weeks, weighed 91 pounds. She could not yet speak about what had happened to her. The nurses noted that she flinched at the sound of running water. Carla's husband, Roy Benitez, had spent 49 days believing his wife was dead. When the detective called him, he didn't understand at first. He asked her to say it again. Then he broke down on the phone, and the detective waited and did not rush him. Eleanor Voss's daughter, Megan, drove 4 hours through the night to reach the hospital. She had been the one who reported her mother missing, who had insisted, against the doubt of everyone around her, that her mother would never simply leave. "She called me every Sunday," Megan told the detective. "Every single Sunday. When she didn't call, I knew. I knew something was wrong." The chamber itself became a crime scene. Forensics photographed every surface. They found the workbench first, a folding table along one wall of the outer room. On it, coils of rope, a roll of duct tape, zip ties, a stun gun, and a cheap laptop, closed. Its battery, dead. They found something else too, a clipboard, and on the clipboard, a list, handwritten. Names and dates, some crossed out, some not. Eleanor Voss was on the list. So was Carla Benitez. There were 5 other names. Detective Reyes stood in the cold concrete room beneath the swimming pool, holding a clipboard with 5 names she did not recognize, and understood that the 2 women they had just saved were not the beginning. They were the part he hadn't finished. The chamber told Detective Reyes 3 things about the man who built it. He had access, not to one house, but to vacant ones, properties no one lived in, no one watched, no one entered for months at a time. He knew which homes were empty and how long they would stay that way. He had skill. The shaft was reinforced. The slab was hinged. The pipe that ran the wrong way had been installed by someone who understood plumbing and concrete and how to hide both. This was not improvised. This was a trade. And he had patience. The names on the clipboard spanned more than a year. Reyes started with access. She pulled the records on 218 Callaway Bend. The foreclosure had been managed, like hundreds of others in the county, by a property maintenance contractor. The company banks hire to mow the lawns, winterize the pipes, and keep vacant homes from falling apart while they sit on the market. The contractor for Callaway Bend was a one-man operation. A licensed handyman who held keys, lockbox codes, and service access to 43 vacant properties across 3 counties. His name was Dwight Mercer, 52 years old. No criminal record. A quiet man, his neighbors would later say, kept to himself, good with his hands. When the detective sent a unit to his address that afternoon, the house was empty. His truck was gone. His phone was off. Dwight Mercer was already running. The 5 other names on the clipboard became the most urgent missing person search in the state. 3 of them matched open cold cases. 2 had never been reported missing at all. Women who lived alone, estranged from family, the kind of people whose absence no one notices for weeks. The kind of people Dwight Mercer had spent a career learning to find. Detective Reyes now had a theory, and it turned her stomach. Mercer didn't keep his victims in one place. He kept them in the vacant houses he was paid to maintain. A foreclosure here, an estate stuck in probate there, homes that banks and courts had forgotten, scattered across 3 counties, each one a property he had a legal key to. Each one a place no one would ever think to look. She subpoenaed his full client list, 43 properties. She did not have time to search them one by one. So forensics raced the dead laptop back to life. It took the digital unit 6 hours to bypass the password. What they found organized the horror into folders, photographs, each woman photographed before and after, floor plans of vacant houses marked, and a spreadsheet, a logbook tracking who was where and for how long. 2 of the 5 remaining women were already dead. The logbook recorded it in the same flat handwriting as everything else. But 3 were not. The spreadsheet listed 3 active locations, 3 more vacant properties, 3 more women, alive, underground, waiting in the dark in chambers exactly like the one beneath the pool on Callaway Bend. And the lantern batteries, the logbook noted, were changed every 9 days. Detective Reyes looked at the date of the last entry. It was 6 days old. They had 3 days, maybe less. To find 3 houses among 43, across 3 counties, before the only man who knew which ones disappeared for good, or before the batteries and the water ran out. She put every available unit on the addresses, and she put out a statewide alert for Dwight Mercer and a white maintenance van with a magnetic company sign that could be peeled off in seconds. The break did not come from the laptop, it came from the road. At 6:48 the next morning, a gas station attendant 90 miles north recognized the man on the television bulletin. He had come in 20 minutes earlier, quiet, calm, paid for fuel and 4 cases of bottled water in cash. The attendant remembered the water because no one buys 4 cases of water at 6 in the morning. He also remembered the van, white, no sign on it now, but a rectangle of cleaner paint where a sign used to be. Mercer had made one mistake. The pump he used had a camera. and the camera caught his plate. The license plate reader network did the rest. It tracked the van moving north on Interstate 35, then off onto a county road, then off the map entirely into the rural stretch where the last 3 properties on his client list happened to sit. He wasn't running away. He was running to them. The 4 cases of water told Reyes everything. He was making his rounds. He knew the police had found Callaway Bend. He knew his time was almost gone. And he had decided that if he could not keep the last 3 women, no one would find them at all. It became a race down a gravel county road. 2 sheriff's units reached the first address, a foreclosed farmhouse, at 7:52 a.m., and found the now familiar signs: a slab in an outbuilding, a hinged lid, a shaft going down. Inside, a woman named Dorothy Latimer, 63, missing 4 months, alive. The second house, 20 minutes away, gave them the 4th victim, Sandra Pruitt, 58, found in a root cellar behind a poured concrete wall. That left 1 address. 1 woman still unaccounted for on the spreadsheet, and the white van, the readers confirmed, was already on the road that led to it. The last property was a hunting cabin at the dead end of an unpaved road, surrounded on 3 sides by tree line. Dwight Mercer's van was parked in front of it when the first deputy arrived. He had been there long enough to lift the lid. He had not been there long enough to do anything else. When he saw the patrol lights come up the gravel, he ran for the van. He made it out of the driveway and onto the county road before 2 more units boxed him in. The van went off the shoulder, into a drainage ditch, and stopped. Mercer did not resist after that. Deputies pulled him from the cab at 8:41 a.m. He was calm. He asked for a lawyer before anyone asked him a question. In his pocket was a ring of keys, each one tagged with an address. Behind the cabin, in a chamber identical to all the others, deputies found the 7th woman. Her name was Ruth Okafor. She was 70. She had been underground for 19 days. When the deputy reached the bottom of the shaft, she asked him if it was still summer. It was. It was the same Thursday it had always been. It had only felt like years. Dwight Mercer was charged with 7 counts of kidnapping and 2 counts of murder, along with a list of lesser charges that filled 3 pages. His defense entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. They argued that a man who built concrete chambers beneath swimming pools and root cellars could not be in his right mind. The prosecution did not argue that he was sane. They argued that it didn't matter, and they let his own logbook make the case. 9-day battery cycles, water rationed by the ounce, properties chosen for how long the banks would ignore them. Every page of it was planning. Patience is not panic. A man does not pour concrete in a rage. He pours it on a schedule. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Dwight Mercer guilty on every count. At sentencing, the judge gave him 7 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. 1 for each woman he took, named aloud, one after another, in open court. Mercer showed no reaction to any of them. He was led out of the courtroom and has not spoken publicly since. The keys, all 43 of them, were entered into evidence. Every property on the list was searched. There were no others. There were enough. The 5 women who survived did not survive the same. Carla Benitez, after 7 weeks underground, spent 2 months in the hospital and a year in therapy. She still cannot stand the sound of running water. But she went home. She testified by video because she could not yet be in the same room as the man, and her voice did not shake. Eleanor Voss, the librarian, recovered faster than her doctors expected. She credited her daughter. Megan never stopped calling, she said. Even when there was no one to answer, she kept calling. That's what told them something was wrong. That's what saved me. She returned eventually to the library where she had worked for 31 years, and she still shelves books 2 mornings a week. Dorothy Latimer and Sandra Pruitt, found in the rural houses, are recovering quietly and have asked not to be named in the press. The request was honored. They were named only once by the judge when it counted. Ruth Okafor, the last woman found, the one who asked if it was still summer, planted a garden in her backyard the spring after. She said she needed to be able to see the sky from everywhere on her property. She said she needed to never be underground again. The case forced a reckoning. Investigators realized that no agency had ever tracked who held keys to the thousands of vacant and foreclosed properties scattered across the state. That a single contractor could quietly hold access to 43 empty homes with no oversight at all. In 2027, the state passed the Voss-Latimer Act, named for two of the women who survived. The law required background checks, registration, and routine inspection for anyone contracted to maintain vacant properties, and it created a registry so that, for the first time, someone would always know who had the keys. Marcus Delgado, the pool cleaner, was called to testify about what he found at the bottom of the deep end. He was uncomfortable being called a hero, and said so. "I almost capped it back up," he admitted. "It was the end of a long job. I almost just sealed it and refilled the pool and went home." He paused. "I think about that. What if I'd been in a hurry that day?" He wasn't. He noticed a pipe that ran the wrong way, and he stopped to ask why. 5 women are alive because a man doing an ordinary job refused to ignore one small thing that didn't belong. The house at 218 Callaway Bend never sold to the family who had it under contract. After everything that happened beneath the backyard, the contract fell through. The pool was filled in, not drained, filled, with concrete and earth, until there was no deep end left, no shell, no shaft, just level ground and new grass. The chamber beneath it was sealed forever. The neighborhood that had forgotten the house does not forget it now. The neighbors watch the empty homes on their streets a little more closely. They notice the lawns that go too long uncut. They have learned what a forgotten house can hide. Dwight Mercer is incarcerated in a maximum security facility. He will die there. The keys he kept so carefully open nothing anymore. Eleanor Voss still calls her daughter every Sunday. She never misses. And every Sunday, Megan still answers on the first ring, because some habits, once they save your life, you keep forever. Carla Benitez learned slowly to take a shower again. The first time she stood under the water without fear, she told her husband. She cried, but not the way she had underground. It was a small thing, but it was hers. And Marcus Delgado still cleans pools. He still drains them, and scrubs the drains, and checks the fittings. He says he checks them more carefully now. He says that at the bottom of every empty pool, just for a second, he listens. They had names, and families, and lives. Eleanor, Carla, Dorothy, Sandra, Ruth. They went into the dark and they came back out of it. That is what matters most. Some things stay buried, and some, against every odd, are found. Because someone heard a knock beneath the bottom of a swimming pool and refused to walk away.